Our next speaker is Jurnell Cockhren. Jurnell has over a decade of experience in creating and contributing to open source software with a work history spanning computer science, neuroscience, optics, and astronomy, providing him with an enriched perspective of the applied sciences. He is the founder of Civic Hacker with the mission of be the source code of social change. Jurnell's affiliations include Black in Tech Nashville, Python Software Foundation, N.A.A.C.P, and the National Society of Black Engineers. Please give a round of applause for Jurnell Cockhren.
Hey, how you doing? This is a kind of heady topic, so I'm gonna try my best to communicate it. I'm still working through the bugs, more or less. But I think that we all have the right minds in the room to put our hearts and our brains on this, to see how far we can push, the building technology for the benefit of all of society. So, as you heard, I'm the founder of Civic Hacker, co-founder of Black in Tech Nashville. And so the mission of my startup, been around since 2012, is to use software, policy, and data to fight against the inertia of inequity and inequality in society. So it is an example of how we can make choices or put our heart with technology that the previous speakers kind of hinted at as a way to hopefully yield us down better paths. Okay. So hopefully we can examine inequality through a somewhat technical lens. I like to do that. It's fun for me. We identify some components of social change, and then also hopefully enable everyone in here to find their lanes in which they can act and do things. Okay. So I like to call society the original user interface. Everything else is a very poor imitation of that. Okay. So I feel that technology for social good and for social justice needs to tap into or consider a society to be that user interface where we want to change how we interact with, change how it affects our lives and our society, opposed to limiting our interface to smaller screens that's just simply distracting us or taking our attention away from the works we could do in our lives and in society. So society is the original user interface. So inequality, hashtag inequality, is a bug in American society. Okay, it's something that's fixable. It's a very hard problem. That hard should be bold. It's kind of hard to see. It's hard. It's a hard problem in the context of, in computer scientists, they consider hard problems to be there's a subset of problems in the world that they classify as hard. But we know as everyday people, yes, this is a very difficult problem. We know it affects many people, and we know that it's also not a technical problem. So we're using technology as simply a tool to hopefully enable or serve as the catalyst to solve this non-technical problem, which is inequities and inequality in society. Okay, so hashtag inequality is basically when you have one group experiencing society where they feel like the system of society is so broken, and then you have another group that's like, it works on my machine just fine. And then the follow-up to that is that there's little to no effort to reconcile the UX or the user experience. So we have the user interface, and when people interact with those interfaces, they have certain experiences based upon maybe their socioeconomic status, their gender, their immigration status, among all other ways in which we subdivide ourselves as humans. Right. So this is essentially inequality in a very hopefully succinct way of describing it. And that makes most of us sad. It's not, but the beauty of society is that we don't need 100% consensus for things to change for the better or for the worse. We don't need 100% consensus. So we need to figure out, well, for any given problem, who are the right people and what are the right tasks? So what makes this problem so hard? And so we have the emotional state of decision makers, the people who are, or groups that either in aggregate or as individuals have power over certain levels in society. Their emotional state and their awareness of the inequality serves as a barrier to actually solve the problem, right? So you can't solve a problem unless you identify, talk about it, If you're like, I don't want to talk about it, well then, hey, you can't do it. That's an emotional issue. That's an emotional issue. And it's okay, because we are emotional beings. That's fine. It's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to acknowledge that sensitive topics are indeed sensitive and they're difficult to deal with, regardless of what side you're on or what your proximity. Unconscious bias. So in aggregate, sometimes humans can have unintended side effects on society or other groups in humans. It's not always intentional. It is just, in aggregate, we behave a certain way. You can even say that no ideology or no faith is completely bound within a single individual. We know that because we all have roles in society. So all of the goodness that I would want to do is not possible to be contained within my person. It's impossible. And then there's a lack of direction. We know technology could help us, and we know it could be great, and it could help us get to where we want to be and evolve in better ways and stuff like that, but we don't know what is step one. How do we get there? Right? And that's intuition, and that's good too. It's okay to acknowledge that that's kind of what we feel. We just kind of putting our finger to the wind. It's all right. So I wish I could. But we need to collaborate. Again, no faith or ideology is completely bound within a single individual. It is one of the original implementations, if you will, of collective consciousness. And here we have humans coming out after the fact and saying, and how can we collectively execute some idea? So we're still mimicking a power, mimicking a feature of nature that's already there. Again, society is the original human interface, user interface. So with data and effort is how I think we could hopefully have a more conscious or collectively conscious efforts to push technology in a certain direction, its use in a certain direction. So I'm going to divide it up in two parts, where we have the components of social change being the directionality of tasks, and then the other side being the distribution of tasks. Those are the two components. So directionality in this case is saying we just want to identify a sequence of tasks, right? For anything that we want to, any social issue that we identify in society, we hope there's a sequence of tasks that will hope you yield that. Of course, it's a guess. That's fine. Yes, it's a guess. We don't really know the truth. We don't have that type of a view of all of time, and that's fine. We can just make a proposal of the sequence of tasks, and then also ask, like, who do they benefit and why? I think that's also, important to know as you walk down this path. It's always okay to take that inventory. Okay. And so we know this is important because usually for very large problems, there are collections of tasks or diversity or diverse set of tasks that would need to be executed in order to ensure we solve that social issue, right? So in order to address income disparities across gender and race, then we know that there's more than one task that will have to be executed and successful in order for that to be solved. We know it's just not a one-trick type of point scenario. And we know that in all of those cases, there are actors on both the victim and the non-victim side and the other sides that it's going to affect them some way. So we know when we're looking to change society, we're not just changing individuals, it's going to affect individuals in society, right? Okay, then we have the distribution of tasks. You want to identify who are the right people for the right task. Every person does not have every role in society. Every person has their own talent, their own uniqueness, something that makes them special, something that enables them to function in the best human way in today's society. So therefore, there's only everyone's not compatible with every single task. And that's all right. We just need to make sure we have coverage of all those tasks, and then everybody is enabled to actually fulfill those tasks. So if we identify the task, but we don't make it easier for people to do the task, then we still don't solve a social problem. We need to make sure people get there. A really great example is any get out to vote effort, right? There's multiple tasks in that effort to get people to go vote, right? And so therefore, that means that there are some people who are really great at getting the word out. There's some people who are really great at carpooling and driving people to the polls. There's some people who are really, really great at going at early voting. It's like, I'm gonna be first there, I'm first there in line. So there's so many roles and tasks there, but we need to make sure that every single person, regardless of their talent and their background and how they're classified in society, to be able to contribute to a solution. That's what we need. So the algorithm for social change essentially is we just going to find a collection of tasks and then enable the most people. And I'm throwing my own little opinion on there to say the most people. I feel that if you enable the most people, enable as many people as you can in society around solving a specific problem, then it's more likely for that problem to be solved. Yeah. That is, again, an assumption. We don't know, right? We know that there are certain rules in society, and so therefore there are times where masses don't exactly, drive all the change. So we know that there's rules. We got to respect that. So there's instances of inequality. Inequality, you can consider it as a class. And then every instance of society is an instantiation of that inequality class. And so we can say treatment by police is an example of something that is unequal. Digital access. So being able to say, well, hey, we understand that we even have a way to use technology in positive manners. How do we enable people to get access to technology so they can do that? Right? Everybody needs that. Income. So you have the same job, same title, same seniority. You might not have the same salary for the same job, working the same hours. So we know that those things exist. So recap, quickly. Society is a unit interface. We looked at that there's a distribution of tasks as well as a collection of tasks that we got to have. So making sure we collect the sequence of tasks and then make sure we say, everybody, here's how you make it easier for you to fulfill these tasks. Okay? And those steps together is what is that quanta of change. Okay? There's no, in my opinion, a single individual or the act or decision by a single individual in itself does not yield social change. It is the collective effort that yields the social change, because we know that faith and ideology is not bound within the single individual. It is an example of collective consciousness already implemented that we tap into. Okay? And that's it. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where does equity fit into your paradigm?
Yes. So equity, I think the second slide was saying that our mission was in inequality and equity. I use inequality in this case because it's the simplest to communicate, but equity is usually should be paired with inequality. But thanks for pointing it out.
I'm concerned that some of the same phenomena that give us digital access, variable access to digital technology now, could be a factor even with life extension and with enhancements to our organism, so that we enhance inequitably. Is that a concern in your model?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that a few of the speakers spoke of were they're hinting at the augmentation of the individual. And so to counterbalance that, we need the augmentation of society, augmentation of the works to better society. So yes, that is a parallel in concern, but also we need to make sure that we're balancing the scales by saying, hey, how do we augment society? So, yes.
I see the general strategy for finding an ultimate task and bringing together the most and most qualified people. But I'm thinking of the task before the task. How do you get people to agree on an ultimate end? How do you sort of advertise the specific plans and get people to buy into those plans for addressing inequality?
That's a very good question. Okay, so we have something in mathematics called vector fields, okay? And so what I'm proposing is that we don't need the task before the task. And the reason why is because it gives us what is called analysis paralysis. What if we can remove analysis paralysis by saying and trusting ourselves to a point and trusting the hearts of all of us to say that, acknowledge that everyone has different magnitudes and proximities to every issue. Like there's not every issue I'm not giving all the same effort, okay? And that's my end time. But I'm not giving all the effort to all the energy to every effort equitably. And then us in aggregate, that reaction in aggregate and how we combine all of that effort is the end result. So we know we need to go good. We don't know what good tasks are, but we need to still combine it, and then we'll have the answer. We don't need to know ahead of time. We shouldn't seek to know ahead of time, in my opinion. And that's it.